Hey everyone, welcome. Get comfortable, and let's get into tonight's Reddit stories. Moving across the country, no friends, and this will be fun brunch with a girl from Bumble BFF. But when a toddler appears out of nowhere, a boyfriend suddenly materializes, and someone starts following her through the mall, that innocent meetup turns into something else entirely. Bumble BFF date gone wrong. Hi guys, I wanted to share a story that happened a little over a year ago. Just remember not to meet strangers from online. So, I'm a 24-year-old woman, and I had just moved across the country for the first time. I didn't know anyone, and my line of work is not great for meeting people. I ended up downloading Bumble BFF as a way to meet friends in my area. I talked to a few girls on there, and the first meetup I went to actually went astonishingly well. That kind of encouraged me, so I decided to give it another go and set up a meetup with a girl. Let's call her Amber, a 22-year-old woman. Amber and I had been talking over Bumble BFF for a few days before we decided to meet up for brunch. We met at a coffee shop, and as soon as she walked up to me, I noticed she didn't look that much like her photos. It wasn't some huge, shocking difference, but it was definitely noticeable. The photos almost looked like they could have been of a sister or cousin, or maybe she's just really good at taking pictures. I didn't mind too much since this wasn't a real date or anything, but it was the first red flag. Within moments of meeting, she immediately starts trauma dumping. During the conversation, she mentions that she doesn't drive and that she also has 2 young children. We sit there for a while, and it's like I can't even get a word in. She's just bulldozing the whole conversation. I'm sitting there trying to think of a polite way to leave, but since she doesn't drive, I feel guilty about the idea of just leaving her alone. Eventually, I tell her I need to hit the ladies' room and then get on with the rest of my day. She offers to walk with me to the restroom. For context, this coffee shop was in an outdoor outlet mall, and we had to walk all the way across the mall to get to the restroom because it wasn't close. While I'm in the stall, I suddenly hear, "Mommy!" And when I open the stall, she's now holding a toddler. I'm thinking, where did this child just appear from? She seems just as surprised as I am. She introduces her toddler, who then hisses at me. Kids are strange sometimes, but it just added to the weird energy. I wash my hands and walk out of the bathroom, and I see a man with a stroller. She comes out of the bathroom and introduces her boyfriend. He's very unfriendly, and she pressures me to say hello to her baby in the stroller. I hesitantly pull the cover down and say hello. The baby starts crying, and I feel very uncomfortable. I thank her for meeting with me, and I watch her and her boyfriend walk off to their car. I know she did not drive, so I suspected her partner had driven her, but she never mentioned that they were also at the mall waiting for us to finish, because it had been hours, or how they ended up at the same ladies' room. I figured maybe he had her location on her phone. Or maybe she texted him that brunch was ending, although I never saw her on her phone. After I watch them get into the car, I start the trek back to the other end of the mall and decide to stop for an Auntie Anne's pretzel. I'm waiting in line and I get a call from a close friend. I tell her about the strange experience and how her boyfriend appeared out of nowhere, thinking that was the end of it. The man working there tells me it'll be a few minutes, so I sit down. As I sit down, I see her boyfriend standing in line behind me. I am horribly embarrassed, because even though I did not plan on seeing Amber again, it is never my goal to be nasty or hurt anyone's feelings. I make eye contact with him, and between being confused and embarrassed, I decide to leave without getting my pretzel and start heading back toward my car. As I'm walking toward my car, I look behind me, and her partner is now deliberately following me. Thoughts are racing through my head. If he had been waiting the whole time, why hadn't he gotten something to eat before? How did he know which area of the mall we were in? Why was he following me? Was he going to confront me if he overheard my conversation on the phone? Every time I look over my shoulder, he's still there. I'm now running through the rest of the mall. I tell my friend on the phone that if I don't call her back in 5 minutes, to call my spouse and the police. I finally get to my car, and I can see him storming through the parking lot after me. I pull out of there as quickly as I can, my heart pounding in my ears. Once I'm about halfway home, I call my friend and let her know I'm okay. I get home, tell my spouse about everything, and I decide to delete my Bumble BFF account, as well as block her on Snapchat, which was the only other social media account I had added her on. A day later, she finds me on Instagram, which I had not given her. She sends me a message that says, "Hey girlie, I had a great time at brunch. We should all hang out again soon." I block her on Instagram as well, and thank God I have not heard from her since. I'm not sure what their intentions were, and truly, I don't want to find out. A lot of people agreed the whole situation was bizarre, but one of the top comments tried to lighten the mood by saying the real tragedy was that she had to abandon that Auntie Anne's pretzel. Another person took that joke a step further and imagined an alternate version of events. What if the boyfriend was actually chasing her down just to return the pretzel he thought she'd forgotten, thinking he was doing her a favor? But mixed in with the humor, there were also serious reactions. One highly upvoted comment said this story gave them a lot of anxiety, and they wondered if this could have been some kind of tactic to lure women, using the kids, the boyfriend, and the odd behavior as part of a setup. What do you think was really going on with Amber and her boyfriend that day? Was it just an awkward, socially clueless meetup? Or do you feel like there was something more sinister behind it? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you've ever had a friend date go wrong like this, I'd be interested to hear your stories too. 7 college girls, a sketchy LA Airbnb, and weird noises in the middle of the night. The cops said nothing was there, but something had been going through their stuff, rattling spoons and walking around the kitchen. When you're trapped in a house you don't know with nowhere to run, what do you even do? Uneasy stay in LA Airbnb. I read a lot of these stories, and I'm really grateful people share them. It made me feel like I should share one of my own. This happened back in June of 2019. I was a 19-year-old girl at the time, and I went to visit my best friend, let's call her Kelly, at her college, UC Santa Cruz. A few of our hometown friends came along, and we stayed at her apartment for a day before our bigger trip down to LA. All of us, plus her college friends, rented a minivan and drove 6 hours down to West Hollywood. There were 7 of us girls total, and at first, everything was going really well. We went to Malibu Beach, had breakfast at the Belvedere Hotel, hiked to the Hollywood sign. Our first 2 nights were great, and honestly, so was our last day. At least until late that night. Before I go on, I want to describe the Airbnb. It was in a sketchy area. There was this shed in the backyard, sitting in a bunch of overgrown plants, and we were specifically told we weren't supposed to go into it. The whole property was surrounded by high chain link fencing, and you had to put in a padlock code at the driveway to get the key. The house itself was 1 story, 3 bedrooms. There was a glass window front porch, and that's where we'd hang out a lot and smoke weed. The back porch was similar, just more run down. We kept both doors locked at all times, and we kept the driveway gate locked too. It was on Virgil Avenue. I actually still have the exact address. I found it again using Street View on Google Maps, but I'm not going to share that now. On our last night, Saturday, we were hanging out on the front porch. Something really weird happened that, looking back, feels like foreshadowing that we just didn't recognize. While we were on the porch, we heard the padlock and chain at the gate jingling around. There was a lot of brush, so we couldn't see what was going on. But I remember all of us going back inside for a bit, until we worked up the courage to go back out and finish the joint. A bunch of us went to bed early because we knew we had to be up early to drive back to Santa Cruz. Some of the girls still needed to study for finals. I remember smoking and then heading to bed around 11:30 at night. My other friend, we'll call her Gabby, was the last one to go to bed around 1:30 in the morning. Except for Kelly, she stayed awake talking to her crush on FaceTime. I'd been sleeping for a while when one of the girls woke me up in a panic. She was begging me to come out to the living room, saying they thought there was something in the house. Honestly, I was pissed at first. Pissed that they couldn't figure it out themselves and that they woke me up. I didn't yet understand how desperate it felt to them. I walked out into the living room, and everyone was there except one girl who was still sleeping. From the living room, you can't see the kitchen, and that's also where the bathroom is. I sat down on the couch, and they all started trying to tell me what was going on at the same time, whispering over each other. I was still annoyed, so I said, "If you really think there's something going on, why don't you call the cops?" And then all of them hissed at me to shut up, and I did. I was quiet for maybe 5 seconds. And then I heard movement in the kitchen. It sounded like someone putting something in the sink or moving cups around. My heart dropped. I jumped off that couch so fast in a way I will never forget. I gathered all of the girls into one bedroom, then went to wake up the last girl. She was so annoyed at me for waking her up that I had to be a bit mean to get her the fuck up. Then we all moved to the other bedroom for safety. We put a chair under the door, and me and another girl stood by it, just listening and guarding. At this point, we were a mix of pacing in fear, crying, not being able to breathe, and some of us going nonverbal. I was trembling. Kelly was on the phone with the cops. Me and the other girl guarding the door were talking about what had happened. She told me that Kelly had still been on FaceTime and started hearing things going on in the bathroom, like drawers opening and our cosmetics being moved around. This was around 3 in the morning. Kelly didn't remember me going to bed and thought it was me in there, so she called out my name twice. That woke Gabby up, and Gabby came out asking what was going on. That, in turn, made the other girls come out and check it out. One of the girls told me she heard spoons rattling, and her voice was shaking as she said it. They thought maybe it could be an animal, so they went over by the open kitchen doorway and banged a water bottle against the frame and yelled, trying to scare it off. But obviously, that did nothing. That's when they came and woke me up. At this point, the cops are taking a long time, of course, and all of us are feeling different, wild emotions. There was a huge window in the bedroom, and I just remember feeling so terrified that someone would climb in through there. The other girl guarding the door looked at me and whispered, "Wait, put your ear and listen." I did, and I heard footsteps. I wanted to scream, cry, and throw up all at once. I whispered to her that we weren't going to share that with everyone else in that particular moment. The cops finally came, but they weren't allowed to enter without us letting them in. That caused another huge problem, and Kelly was arguing with the dispatcher on the phone. I was asking if they could just come to the window because we didn't want to go out there. Eventually, the other girl guarding the door worked up the courage and went out to let the cops in. Welp, I've had many experiences with cops. I live on a bad block, and this one I will remember. They were 2 women, so you'd think they'd understand our fear. Not in the slightest. They said they searched the home and saw nothing. They didn't ask questions, they weren't curious, they just wanted to leave. They kept glancing at the weed on the table, like they were implying this was all happening because we were high. Mind you, some of us weren't smokers, and those of us who were had smoked at 11 at night. Weed has never affected me or anyone I know like this before. We asked them if they'd search the backyard, because there was that rundown shed back there, and they were hesitant to do that for us. Like, you didn't search that in the first place? They left. And Kelly looked at us and said, "I don't know about y'all, but there is no way I am sleeping here tonight, and I want to leave right now." And we all immediately agreed. It was probably around 4 in the morning at this point. We packed up our stuff and left for the 6-hour drive back to Santa Cruz. During the drive, the sun rose. I texted my parents, and Kelly was messaging the Airbnb host. When the host woke up, She was never helpful, and honestly, I don't know much more about how that played out. We were in California for 2 more days. I remember Gabby and I just hanging out at the beach while the other girls studied and took their finals, but everything felt so weird. It was the only thing we could think about, talk about. At one point, Kelly broke down crying because she'd been holding it together for so long, trying to be the dominant one. It was so sad to watch, and we all just group hugged her. It didn't feel real, and our brains were just trying to come up with an explanation, trying to piece it all together and make sense of it. On the long ride back to Santa Cruz, one of the girls suggested maybe it was something supernatural. As big a fan of ghosts as I am, that still feels like a stretch. The most sensible explanation is that a homeless person broke in and enjoyed going through girls' belongings. Our noises and yells didn't scare them off because they were probably high. I often think, what if we had just gone into the kitchen? But if there was someone there, what the fuck would we have done? And then, what if it was nothing, just an empty space? This event took over my life for a while. Back at home, I became so strict about all the windows and doors being locked at night. I'd check 3 times. I was pleading with my dad to get a new, updated alarm system. I put a bat under my bed. Honestly, all the stuff we sadly should already be doing. But that fear, that inability to fall asleep for months, I never want that again. Thank you for listening. I don't know who or what was in that house, but this experience made me buy a portable door lock, and now I always bring it with me to Airbnbs. A lot of people in the comments focused on that creepy backyard shed. One top comment said it straight out. Whatever was in that shed probably ended up inside the house, and leaving when you did was absolutely the right move. Others called it a really spooky story and pointed out how unsettling it was that whoever came in seemed so comfortable, moving through the bathroom and kitchen like they belonged there, not like someone who was afraid of being caught. And one person had a different theory about why the Airbnb host was so unhelpful afterward. They suggested it might have been the host themselves, or someone the host knew slipping in and out of the property. Maybe the reason the shed and yard felt so off-limits in the first place. What do you think was really happening in that house? Someone hiding on the property? A messed-up host situation? Or something else entirely? Let me know your theory down in the comments. If you enjoy these true, unsettling encounters, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss the next story. 2 girls hotboxing a car at a quiet baseball field in the middle of winter. And then a car pulls up, inches away in an otherwise empty lot. 2 men in black get out and go straight for the doors. Was this a misunderstanding or something way more deliberate? I don't think that was by accident. When I was younger, my friends and I, all girls, used to go to this specific baseball field to fishbowl our cars. It was kind of a known spot, but still pretty low-key. It was usually dark and never busy at night because that area was full of warehouses, and the road it was on was really curvy, so you couldn't really see what was happening in the parking lot from the road. One day, it was just me and my best friend Jaina, also a girl, smoking in her car. It was winter, so all the windows were rolled up. There was one other car there, but they were parked a bunch of spots away from us. And honestly, no one ever bothered you there, because they were probably doing the same thing we were, so we weren't worried. Maybe half an hour later, that car leaves, and it's just us in the parking lot. We're just chilling, talking, listening to music, enjoying our blunt. Then another car slowly pulls into the parking lot and parks right next to us. And I'm thinking, that's weird. Why right next to us? I immediately get a bad feeling and tell Jenna we should probably leave anyway because it's getting late. Right as I say that, I see 2 guys dressed in all black get out of the car. Jenna, let's fucking go. We don't know them. Jenna, lock the door. One of them is going to the other side. Let me add, Jenna has never been fast. No urgency. Ever. She locks the door just before both of the guys try opening the doors on each side. That's when Jaina throws the car in reverse and dips out of there. Both guys are still standing in the same spot. I turn around to see if they're getting in their car to follow us. But they're just standing there, watching us leave. We didn't recognize them. Who were they? Did they think we were friends of theirs by mistake? What were their intentions? I knew in my gut we had to get out of there. I never went back there again, and I'm no longer friends with Jenna years later. One commenter thinks this wasn't random at all. They point out it was probably the same people who'd been there earlier, just in a different car, which makes the timing and the way they went straight for the doors feel a lot more calculated than accidental. What do you think was really going on in that parking lot? Mistaken identity, or something planned and predatory? Let me know your take in the comments below, and if you've ever had a similar close call, I'd be interested to hear it. If you enjoy these stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss the next one.